This episode is sponsored by the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Hollywood Casino and ESPN Bet want to help you get ready for football season. Download the ESPN Bet app today and explore an action-packed online sportsbook. Then stop in the casino to catch the action in person with a tailgate party on September 8th. Visit HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com to see how you can reserve your package. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The beloved band Lake Street Dive brings its 20th anniversary tour to Merriweather Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland on Friday. I spoke to drummer Mike Calabrese about the band's journey from hits like Good Kisser to its newest album, Good Together. Hey, Mike Calabrese, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP in DC.
Good to be here, man. Thank you.
Yeah, we're talking because Lake Street Dive, cool band, is coming to Merriweather Post Pavilion on September 13th. This is really cool to talk to you. I want to get to, what the tour name and everything is in a second, but real quick, just with the venue, have you all swung through Merriweather a lot before?
No, I actually think this is our first time, and we've been in the region many times over the years, but this is our first time at this specific venue, as far as I can remember.
How's the band's following in this general Maryland, DC, Virginia area?
Oh, it's always been great for us down there, for sure. Yeah, we've been, we were playing tiny clubs in DC back in the day, but, went up to the 930 Club, and then we did Wolf Trap in Vienna, Virginia, and, we've been in the small clubs of Baltimore, too. So this is a good, all-around regional area for us.
Definitely. And of course, 930 and Merriweather are run by the same IMP group. So it's awesome to see you all grow and continue that you keep coming back to this area. Your fans are appreciative. All right. Well, so you're calling this one the Good Together Tour. Obviously, it's named after your most recent album, Good Together. And I guess there's a title track on that too. But what's in the name? How do you know why the album and the tour, why it's all sort of the perfect name for this?
Yeah, it was it's named after the song, but kind of figuratively, it really is about the fact that we've been a band for 20 years, and that we've been able to make it work, and it's still working this long, and also some of the subject matter in the songs is about very much about how people can connect, making connection possible, remembering that, like, with some intention, with the right focus and the right work, you can work well with anybody. And that can be found, in throughout, kind of like a common thread throughout some of the subject matter songs.
I love it. Well, yeah, I was just jamming out to the song. It's a catchy song before we hopped on here. But thanks for explaining the figurative meaning too, because that's right. It is in a way like a 20th anniversary tour for y'all, because I know the band formed in 2004, right?
Yeah. So the founder of the band was Mike Olson. He was a trumpet and later guitar player, and he got Bridget and Rachel and I in a room, and was like, the name of the band is Lake Street Dive, and this is the kind of music we're going to play, and let's start with this tune I wrote. And then it progressed. Aki came into the band in 2017, but fit like a glove from the get-go. And now the band has expanded. Now we have James Cornelissen on guitar, and yeah, so along the way, it's the band, but also our greater organization, the crew, the management, booking agency. It's always been a family affair.
I love it. So really, we have Mike McDuck Olson. I don't know, where did that come from? Huey, Dewey, and Louie, or Scrooge? Or I don't know where the McDuck came from.
Scrooge for sure.
All in good fun. But I wanted to know about the name of it as well. Wasn't it named after an actual dive on Lake Street, or like a bowling alley in Minneapolis?
That's right. Yeah, there's a spot called Bryant Lake Bowl. I think it's still there on Lake Street in Minneapolis. And back in the day, one one of McDuck's uncles, who was also a trumpet player, frequented a lot of the establishments on the strip. And back then it was pretty. I think it was kind of rough. It was kind of seedy. And Bryant Lake Bowl, I think, is like an upscale kind of bowling bar now. But back in the day, it was like one of the cool underground clubs of the city. And that was the original idea. The kind of the feel of the band would be a band that you would see in a dive bar, have a dive bar energy. And that's where we got our start and developed our following in Boston. And we still try to bring that to the stage, even if the stage is as big as the Merriweather Post.
Absolutely. Well, I'd love to go at least, and we can't hit them all, obviously, but somewhat of a chronological order through some of the big albums and stuff over the years. Is it true you funded that first full length album in this episode in 2007 ish? Was it funded from money that like a songwriting contest that Bridget won?
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. Yeah, that first album, we don't even sell that album anymore because doesn't it's not our best work, of course, and it doesn't really represent us. But
It was
yeah,
good for the
so
time for what you needed, you know?
exactly, yeah, yeah. But Bridget had written a song um that the band recorded called "Sometimes When I'm Drunk and You're Wearing My Favorite Shirt," and
Nice
it
succinct
won.
title.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty. Yeah, and who knows what it's about? But she won the writing, yeah, the songwriting category in the jazz
Right.
genre. Because back then we were definitely more jazz inflected, and yeah, and so she took half her winnings and donated it, and took the other half and was like, hey, like, I know this is a brand new band, but like, you guys helped me record the demo, so like, well, let's put this towards making our first album. What do you say?
Yeah.
And so that act of generosity, really gave us our first kind of leverage and push into this recording music thing.
I love it. Hey, I'm really fascinated that you said that in this episode. I'm sure a lot of bands would say this, like they're really early, independently released albums, like they don't even really sell or even really, promote anymore. Like in this episode, how do you feel the same way or differently about those other early ones, like Promises, Promises, and then the self-titled Lake Street Dive, Bad Self Portraits? Where in that early stretch are you did you finally like, okay, now I'm proud, now we can still sell these today?
Well, I'm really impressed with your research, first of all, that you even know about Promises, Promises, which was our technically second album. But
Sounds like a Clapton
uh,
song. It's a different.
yeah, we the album that we still sell is the eponymous one, Lake Street Dive, which is technically our third, and that was the first album where we had like decided that we're not going to pursue the jazz element,
Hmm.
that we're going to go this new route with backbeats and 4-minute songs, and kind of like explore the songwriting tradition of American music. And so that's the first one that, like, we still play songs from that record. It still somewhat represents us as a band, our concise, more cogent pop songs. And so yeah, that's where we kind of start. And so yeah, from since then are the albums we still feel like represent us.
Okay, okay. So in this episode in Promises, Promises, they were what they were to get you where you were, but your official that you would claim as your origin story album would be Lake Street Dive, the self-titled.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, then Bad Self Portraits. At that point, I think you're still you're evolving and really putting out music that I would say you're probably really proud of nowadays. So, what's your favorite song on that album? Is it the title one, the lead off track, or let me turn it to you. Which one are you still proud of stuff off that one?
Yeah, Bad Self Portraits is, I mean, the title track is the one it's still a big one for us. And also You Go Down Smooth, those two are two songs that we still play almost every show to this day. And but great tune from that record that we haven't played in a while is Just Ask, which was written by our founder McDuck, and just one of the better songs he ever wrote, and really like that was also a I feel like within a song like a turning point song for us. We kind of like embraced more of this like moody, emotional side of us in like a perfect way. I think really captured it. That song. I think about that song a lot.
Oh, great. Well, maybe you never know, folks. Maybe you'll hear some of these early-ish ones at Merriweather.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Well, so then Bad Self Portraits is when if people are watching the various Billboard charts and stuff, is when that starts percolate, when you start seeing Lake Street Dive showing up on a lot of these charts. And you could say the same, but even more so for Side Pony, the next one. I think is that named after like a side ponytail, or am I making that up?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
literal thing, but of course the song figuratively it also means like a side piece, I think.
Ah, I
In
got
a
you
sense.
distracted.
Yeah, yeah,
All right,
yeah,
cool,
yeah.
cool, cool, cool. Well, I think it tops the several different, maybe in rock, folk, alternative, like albums charts. Like you're starting to, people of different genres are starting to discover you all. Which one do we want to? Which I'd like to get a song on that off of that one too. Call Off Your Dogs. I Don't Care About You. Which one do you want to talk about, or something I didn't even name?
Yeah, yeah. Those two we still play from time to time, especially Call Off Your Dogs. We brought back especially because we've been touring around with the Hunter Tones, this horn group,
Nice.
and they really bring a lot of life to that song. But we didn't play the title track "Side Pony" for years because although McDuck had written it, he was very embarrassed by it. He kind of wrote it as a lark, as kind of like it's basically like a love song for his wife, who at their wedding had a side ponytail,
Mm.
and the greater meaning of it really isn't side piece. It's more about like, well, what makes you you? What's your bit of flair, or your signature? And so, and he was really embarrassed about it. He thought it was more of like a kid song, but we've brought that one back because people just love it. It's just fun. There's nothing to it, It's like you don't have to, some that's a good thing about lots of pop music. It gives you a break from being too serious all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, some catchy songs that you're going through off of that one, but then I would say probably one of your biggest, at least to that date, Free Yourself Up, the sixth album was I Can Change, Shame, Shame, Shame. But tell me about Good Kisser. That's the song. When I told my wife I was interviewing you today, she was like, "Oh, Good Kisser." She launched right into it. She knew every word. Why do you think that song still holds up to this day?
Oh man, I think it's a great sentiment. Yeah, Bridget wrote that one, and great great melody, hook, feel, all that stuff. But what the real cool thing about that is, it is one of those things you don't really think about, especially in terms of breakup songs. Usually they go one of two ways, and it's begging someone to take you back, or you're the worst and I never want to talk to you again, or maybe a third would be slightly more magnanimous and be like, listen, I guess we just weren't right for each other, and it's sad when things go this way. But what's cool about Good Kisser is that it's like, okay, be fair, tell the whole truth. Why don't you, if you're going to gossip about me after we break up, how about you tell them all the good stuff too? And so it's like a fun take on, a way a breakup could go,
All right.
as
Well
fun as
said.
that can be.
Well said. That was like a even better answer than I thought I was gonna get out of that. Great, well
Oh,
done.
great.
You exceeded the expectations.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, then we got hit. Obviously, I guess that one came out. Wait, when was that? That was 2021. Oh, okay. So I guess this was a. I guess that was what was that like a pandemic record? I guess, right? Did you start working on pre-pandemic, or was that you all stuck at home and you're coming up with Make and Do and Know That I Know, and then Hypotheticals was massive. But was that like sitting around during COVID and coming up with that, or is it the seeds of that predated that?
No, it definitely predated it. We started work on that album. I think it was late 2019, and we finished it early 2020. And I actually remember we went to the studio, and then we took a little break, and we went and we did a cruise for a week in I want to say late February of 2020, and was hearing all this news and stuff like that. Got back from the cruise and then finished the record. And then 3 days after flying home from finishing the record, it was lockdown. So
Mm.
we got it. We, had no idea that was coming. But all the songs were written and recorded before the pandemic hit. So what was crazy was we were able to like mix it, master it remotely, all that stuff, plan for its release. But we had to sit on it for a year and a half before we played a single show.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I mean, we're glad to have gotten it done, but that was like just agonizing, just sitting on that record. And every musician kind of felt the same way during that time
Yeah. So
or
were you
another
were
about
you
the,
even more
yeah.
pleased then to see hypotheticals specifically take off? I mean, that what became a relatively big hit for you all, and you said you've been sitting on it for a couple years, not been able to play it live. But was that extra rewarding to see people buy into that one?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, because you never know how an album is going to do, but at least between finishing it and releasing it, you don't have a lot of time to think about what might happen, and you have to put it out there, so you do, and then you go for it, and then we have to sit on it for that long. You're just like, oh, this is, like, we don't even know, like, maybe everybody will hate this record and we won't even be a band, and we will have waited a year and a half to even find out about it. I remember even recording the music video for that song remotely. We had a company doing it, and they shot a bunch of B-roll, and then they mailed us green screens to our house
Mhm.
and gave us very specific instructions on how to use our phones to film ourselves, and that's how we put that video together. So it was just like, all right, we put all this time and effort into it. We're home, let's just do whatever we can. And then once it finally caught traction, it was very much a payoff for all the waiting and hard work.
That's great. That's great. Well, you've been generous with your time. We'll let you run here shortly, but I guess we do have to ask why, guys. So Mike McDuck Olson leaves in 2021, and you guys forge ahead with the lineup you have now. What was the reason for the exit? I want to be respectful. I never know if it's good or bad reasons when I ask people this, but I want to give them a chance to say it in their own words. Why you think? Was
Yeah,
it just time? Was it COVID? The world was changing a lot around that time, but
yeah. Well, what I remember was that right before doing, obviously, we were like, okay, the touring's getting to be a lot, and at the time, um, I had one kid, and Mike had two, and we were away from home a lot due to touring, and we were like, all right, let's do this record. We'll tour on this record for a year and a half, and then let's take a hiatus. Let's take maybe one, at least one, maybe 2 years, and just take a break from this. And we never got to, so we had to wait so long to tour on it. A lot of time at home, a lot of time to think and reflect. We got the hiatus before we released the record. And during that time, he kind of did some soul searching, and it was just not right for him or his family, and which is 100% understandable, respected. And he went into education, which he had always been passionate about, and it was very amicable and maturely discussed, and you know, it we for years we've just been notorious amongst ourselves and the people around us. We're the like lowest drama band I think you could possibly find. There's no there's no hijinks. We're not cool. We don't trash hotel rooms. And we don't have big blowout acrimonious fights. And for the better. I mean, some people might say, "Oh, like, well, Fleetwood Mac, like, unless you all sleep with each other, you won't create like a legendary album." But I'm willing to potentially forsake that
right.
for the low and slow method. Maybe our legendary album is yet to come, and we won't we will not have had to fight each other to make it good and saucy, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
the scandalous drama can cause great music, as we've seen with Fleetwood Mac, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's much better when it's not. Low and slow. There you go. I like
low
that
and
better.
slow. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's what makes barbecue so good.
Barbecue, yeah. Well, speaking of which, that's a perfect segue. Didn't you do the theme song for Somebody Feed Phil with Phil Rosenstein? I think it was Emmy nominated on Netflix. We actually had Phil. He called in to promote that show when he came. I guess because they were doing like some DC episodes, and we talked to Everybody Loves Raymond, all that stuff. He's a great guy. But anyway, yeah. What was it like putting that together? And you know, you're transcending just the music realm now. You're Emmy. You can say we do Emmy nominated TV themes as well. If anybody else wants to hire us.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those opportunities that comes along, and you know, we were in the middle of a tour when he had asked us because he was a fan and he had taken us out to dinner before, and at the time, you know, before we were friends, before when we were just friends, he didn't have the show yet, and so by the time he had the show and he asked us, we were like, you know, we're tired and we're on tour, and like it might be a hard turnaround, but let's come up with something and record a demo. And he even weighed in on the lyrics after we sent some early demos over to him. And we're like, okay, and we finished it up. He approved it. We went recorded a version of it, and then he brought it to Netflix, and they were like, yeah, this is well, you know, this is great. We'll put this on. And yeah, it kind of happened really quick. We like recorded it on a day off, Cleveland, randomly. We just got it together, did it in a day, and that's the version you hear on the theme song.
I love it. Hopefully it introduced a whole, you know, a whole wider group of audience to your music that, you know, maybe they hadn't heard you, and then they hear that theme and they look it up and then they find you. You never know which avenue they're going to come to find you.
And that's why we did it. You know, well, first of all, because we love Phil and we're into the show, but also, yeah, it's a good thing. You know, diversify. You know, get into every scene you possibly can. That's kind of like the scrappy musician method.
I love it. Well, keep up the scrappy musicianship. Keep it going. Your fans are looking forward to seeing it, Merriweather. I guess final seconds. This just dawned on me. I know the band formed in Boston, but it's named after you know, Lake Street Dive in Minneapolis. So I wanted to know, is there any, you know, is Governor Tim Walz, you know, the vice president nominee here on the Democratic side, has there ever been any talks with him, or have you ever been to the Lake Street Dive it's named after? I just had to ask.
No, but it's funny. I mean, we've been to Lake Street. I don't know if we're on Tim Walz's radar, but funny enough, the two things that have been mentioned, you know, while they've been campaigning, you know, I feel like in a speech, uh, Kamala was saying something about, you know, about how it's good to be together or something like this, or it's good to work together. And then
Oh,
later on,
just like
she
your
said
tour.
something like, exactly. And later on, she said something about joyful warriors. And another line we've been using is like, you know, the album is kind of like a joyful rebellion. It's kind of like, let's rise up with joy and go come at the world like this. And we're like, wait a second, what's going on? Is somebody on their staff feeding them lines from our interviews or something like that? Of course, that's completely narcissistic to think of it. You know, we don't own those words, but it has been funny. You know, it does feel like whatever their campaign has is kind of there's a similar energy there.
I think there's someone from Waltz's Minnesota ties that knows Lake Street Dive, the place, and then
Yeah,
found your music. There's some through line there. We can't solve it all in this one, you know, interview, but there's something there.
yeah.
Something
But
there.
we're planting the conspiracy seed, and we're hoping the listeners will go out and make it true.
There you go. You have to buy the Good Together album,
Right.
and you have to play it forwards and backwards. You have to look through all the clues like the Beatles
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
to see how this campaign will turn out. It's all there in the music. You just have to look close enough between the lines.
Yeah, exactly. Just got to get into it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've had way too much fun tangenting on all this, so I'll let you run. But thank you so much for doing this, Mike. It was so much fun. Again, Lake Street Dive coming to Merriweather Post Pavilion on September 13th. So get your tickets, everybody. Thanks, man. This was fun.
This was fun. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.